The dog was protecting something. They thought it was the couch. They were wrong in a way that no amount of training certification was going to prepare them for. Ghost was a 4-year-old husky, white with pale gray markings, the quietest animal in the house that had never been particularly quiet. Moved at his own pace, and had accepted the arrival of baby Eli with the philosophical calm of a dog who had seen enough to stop being surprised. For 7 months, he had been exactly the dog they'd hoped for. Present, gentle, reliably non-dramatic. Then, on a Monday morning, he changed. Eli was on the sofa. He was too young to sit unsupported, so he was propped against a nursing pillow in the corner of the sectional, one of those wide-based wedge shapes designed for exactly this kind of positioning. He was awake, looking at the ceiling with the blissful attention of a 7-month-old discovering the ceiling. Ghost jumped onto the sofa and lay down directly against the nursing pillow, his back to Eli, body curved around the edge of the pillow in a loose arc. This was unusual. Ghost did not usually sit on the sofa. Eli's mother, Vivian, watched it from the kitchen doorway. It looked sweet. She took a picture. By Tuesday, Ghost's behavior had changed. He was still on the sofa whenever Eli was propped there. But now when Vivian reached to pick Eli up, Ghost turned. Not aggressively, no teeth, no sound, but the body movement of an animal placing itself between a hand and an infant. A reorientation. A claim. Her mother, who was visiting, said, "He's resource guarding the baby." Vivian had read about resource guarding. She had a dog training book on her shelf. She looked up the behavior. It matched. Dog claims object or person. Dog blocks access. She called the trainer she'd used when Ghost was a puppy. The trainer came Thursday. He watched Ghost's behavior for 20 minutes and agreed with the assessment. Classic guarding behavior, reinforced by Vivian's passive acceptance of it. Needed structured interruption and redirection immediately. He showed Vivian the protocol. She practiced it twice with his guidance. It worked. Ghost stepped back when she gave the command and claimed a neutral position across the room. The trainer said, "Give it 3 days of consistent correction, and this should resolve. If it doesn't, call me." That was Thursday afternoon. Thursday evening, Ghost went back to the sofa. Vivian corrected him. He moved. She put Eli to bed. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Friday morning, Eli was slow, not dramatically. The particular flatness of an infant who had slept long and was slow to wake into themselves. Vivian thought, good sleep. She gave him his morning feed. He took it, but without his usual urgency. She put him down on the sofa with the nursing pillow. Ghost was already there. He positioned himself the same way. Curved around the pillow. Back to Eli. Vivian remembered the trainer's protocol and said the word. Ghost moved. He went to the far end of the sofa and lay down. He put his head on his paws and did not look away from Eli. At 10:30, Vivian's mother held Eli while Vivian showered. When she came out, her mother was standing in the hallway with Eli in her arms, and Ghost was standing in front of her, blocking the hallway, the same body language as before. Not growling, just in the way. Vivian came out of the bathroom. "What's wrong?" "He won't let me pass," her mother said. There was something in her voice that was not quite steady. Vivian took Eli. She looked at him. His color was slightly off, the kind of off that a person who has spent 7 months looking at a baby's face every day recognizes before they can name it. Not wrong enough to point at. Wrong enough to feel. She took his temperature, 38.9 Celsius. High for an infant his age. She called the pediatric nurse line. The nurse asked 17 questions in a specific order, and at the end of those questions, the nurse said, "I want you to take him to the emergency room now." Has your dog ever put his body between you and something before you understood the reason? Share your story in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. Eli was admitted within the hour. His blood cultures came back the following morning. Early stage bacterial sepsis, a group B strep infection that had likely been building silently for 4 to 5 days. The kind that in a 7-month-old presents without the dramatic signs parents are told to watch for. Progressing in the bloodstream while the baby sleeps normally, feeds adequately, and offers no clear alarm. Dr. James Osei, pediatric infectious disease, sat with Vivian on Saturday and said, "The fever we caught it at was the window." 12 hours later, and we're managing a very different situation. Ghost had been with Eli all week. Pressed against the nursing pillow, positioned between Eli and whoever reached for him, blocking access every time the baby's chemistry was communicating something his blood was not yet ready to show on a thermometer. The trainer's protocol worked perfectly, which is why Ghost moved when Vivian commanded, and went to the end of the sofa and lay with his head on his paws, and watched Eli with the eyes of an animal who had run out of legitimate options, and was waiting for the humans to notice what they kept not noticing. He had been right all week. He had been corrected all week for being right. When Eli came home, Ghost jumped on the sofa, pressed against the nursing pillow, and stayed. Vivian did not correct him. Every guardian deserves to be seen. Subscribe so you never miss the next one. Next, a dog who slept outside a nursery for 19 nights in a row. Everyone said it was separation anxiety. The endocrinologist said otherwise.